Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Shalom, everyone. I am Rabbi Gary Gans. I'm sad but honored to be with you. And in the synchronicity of this universe, I also bring condolences from my little brother, Jeffrey, who in fact turns out to be Freya's attorney. So this is all within the family. Ma'ayan Chayim, wellspring of life. We've come together sharing our sorrow to commemorate Freya's life. We recall the blessing of her life. We thank God for all that was good and true in her life, and for the precious memories which shall endure. Eternal God, her family and friends are bowed in grief, and may seek light to dispel the dark gloom which threatens to overwhelm them. Be gracious to those who mourn, for they are in distress. Bless them with your compassion. Ease their burden of sorrow. Send them light and peace. For it is written, "Fear not, as I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will help you. I will strengthen you. I will sustain you with my power." And let us all say, Amen. On her behalf, I will recite Psalm 23, an excerpt in Hebrew and an English interpretation. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, benodesha yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenachaleni. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God has me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside the still waters. God guides me on paths of righteousness and revives my soul for the sake of God's glory. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod do comfort me. You set a table in sight of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in the house of the Lord forever. You may have noticed that just before we began this public ceremony, I stood with Nick and Jana and cut memorial ribbons that they're wearing on their left-hand sides, as is consistent with tradition for the death of a parent. We acknowledge their loss. We also acknowledge grandchildren. I imagine you are some of the grandchildren. Noah, Isabella, Maddie, Rose, Matthew and Shayla, and niece and nephew Deborah and Tasso. You each have identified with her through the years differently and wish there was more time to connect and to propel you into your future. Now, what is going to be very interesting, you're probably going to be hearing as well from the others, that Freya is going to be buried next to her husband and her own mother at the same cemetery at Crescent. That is a holy site for you as you return once again for this sacred purpose. If one can have a favorite funereal text, I have one. I'm going to share it with you. I shared it from this pulpit many times from members of my congregation, even my own parents. was written by a scholar and rabbi thousands of years ago, understanding the closure and completeness that comes with death. I'll translate. He wrote, "We are all destined to die. We share it with all who ever lived, with all who ever will be. Cry for the dead. Hide not your grief. Do not restrain your mourning, but remember that continuing sorrow is worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let their memory be a source of peace, and be consoled when the soul departs. Death is better than a life of pain, and eternal rest is better than constant illness. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our few days in eternity. The good things in life last for a short time, but a good name, a good reputation endures forever." We have a number of intimate members of the family, friends, who will be coming up to speak. I'm honored to call first on Nick.
Thank you, Rabbi Gans, and everyone for coming out here today. I'm going to begin my words with the most remarkable bit of wisdom someone ever told me. In the last hours of her consciousness, Mom said, the greatest achievement is relationships. Not only was it the wisest statement one could make, it was made in a time of distress. Her strength as a life force in all of us was demonstrated at the most impossible moment. The fog of fate was just closing in around her, and she had this clarity. Please allow Mom to impart this wisdom on all of you. She knew we were surrounding her with warmth, not only just us in that room, but in this room. All of us here today, standing here, I can feel what she was feeling in that room and over the course of her life. She cherished each and every one of you, and it gave her great comfort every day, including in her final conscious moments. So thank you for being such wonderful friends and family. From the obituary and the longer version on the Platt website and your own experiences, you know a lot about Mom's attributes and character. So rather than reiterate it now, I thought I'd share a few memories and stories. We loved movies and shows, and everyone who knows her knows that she loved entertainment. One of my first memories in 1974 was I made her take me to Godzilla versus Megalodon. And even by Hollywood standards back then, you had to have patience, okay? As a 6-year-old, it was very suspenseful. A couple years later, she got her revenge, and we rented, Betamax was out, and we rented Creature from the Black Lagoon. So we heard a lot about that because a family member, I think Maurice Zimring, was the writer or producer. So she was always proud of that, and we watched it many times over the course of our lives together. A few weeks ago, we watched all of her favorite classics, and I have to say they were great. For me, it was the first time watching all these black and white movies. So some of them we saw were Some Like It Hot, Birdcage, which was in color, Giant, North by Northwest, Vertigo, The Maltese Falcon, and Dial M for Murder. And we just had a great time eating popcorn and watching these movies, well into the early hours of the morning. We saw numerous Broadway plays, and I think Fiddler was her all-time favorite. My parents would take us to New York, and we'd walk miles, and that was one of her favorite things, as many of you know. We'd always end up in Chinatown or Little Italy, and sometimes we'd stop at White Castle. and order 50 hamburgers. These kinds of memories last forever, and they capture the essence of the Cohen family experience. Of course, there was the real China in the 70s, and in Europe and the Caribbean and Hawaii. We went everywhere, and there's still some unsolved mysteries from all those travels. One time, in some foreign country, 2 alleged suspects, me and my sister, were in a turnstile with Mom, and suddenly it sped up, and she was flung out like a ragamuffin. So she was still trying to solve that mystery to the very end, and I'll never really tell what happened, Jana. Most recently, we had a wonderful Thanksgiving at Jana's, and Mom, she loved to be around friends and family. Mom was a gifted artist, and we had some paintings and drawings of people that she made. And one day, it was in the 70s, she ordered Scrap Happy from TV, and we anticipated like 2 weeks. It finally got there, and it literally was a box of scraps of felt. It was somebody's trash. And the story never went away, and anyhow, I'm invoking it a final time today. And I actually found Scrap Happy in the house already, and I think it's going to go where it belongs. She was also a major big-time cat person. And, I just saw a Netflix documentary on cats, and it said it's basically like having a wild animal in the house. She was living with wild animals in the house. So I vote for dogs. Anyhow, one day she was watching our dogs, and somehow Floyd swallowed all the guts of a deer, probably left from a hunter, a big deer, a really big deer. And he made it home before the great mishap. And after an emergency call to the other grandma nearby, there reportedly was screaming, a total freak out. We were out of town, thankfully. And a steam cleaning crew came, and they didn't even know what to do. And so I guess maybe us dog people are the ones on the wild side. She loved traditions, and it was her idea to introduce props like rubber frogs into the Passover Seder. And it was fun, and it brought everyone into it, which is something, she always wanted to involve everybody. And there were years at the Passover Seder where there were 3 or 4 religions at that table, enjoying the traditions and the great food. She was so eclectic, and so were her friends and all the experiences. She was at peace at the end. She said everything she needed to say and had no enemies except a couple of my dogs, who probably earned their place. I'm sure her influence will be part of everyone here. Something better will happen to all of us because of Mom. A sudden smile, a desire to order something different on a menu, and even how we interact with people. She would want that. Please keep her in your hearts and minds and continue to celebrate her life. Thank you.
And as Nate and Elaine come up, I wanted to respond to something that Nick had said. Nate and Elaine, okay. When I was told that surrounding the deathbed were members of the family, and she spoke to each one individually, I said it was biblical. And indeed it is. This week's Torah portion, the patriarch Jacob dies, knows he's dying, and spends his last energy speaking to his family one by one, giving them an ethical will and talking about their achievements and their goals for the future. This was a biblical moment that you encountered yourself with her death. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Freya was amongst our closest friends here in New Jersey. We met through Jana and our daughter, Julie, some 45 years ago and quickly became friends with Freya and her husband, Milt. They were both accomplished in their professions, taking them to the Far East. There they developed a love of Asian food. This love led them to become owners and working managers of a noted Japanese eatery known as Arigato at Eagle Plaza in Voorhees for several years. On one occasion, after a good review by the Inquirer's Mystery Muncher, an unexpected onslaught of customers necessitated Milt's running out to the local supermarket to fill the gap in food supply. That is at least our understanding of part of the folklore of their unusual undertaking. Following Milt's untimely passing, we continued our closeness with Freya and their children, Nick and Jana. They have both become successful business people, similar to their parents. Freya remained at the home she and Milt purchased in Voorhees for many years, following some years residing in the Richmond, Virginia area. There, she would visit with grandchildren, listen to her favorite 50s TV channel, at a second profession, dabbing in dividend-yielding stock trading, avidly reading, and contributing to our book club. Her family grew with a son-in-law, daughter-in-law, grandchildren, and as many as 9 indoor plus outdoor cats, many of whom she had spayed and neutered if they could be caught. She and Jana and John have had us over for many happy events, always with wonderful food and drinks served. One could never starve under their watch. When we moved to Charlottesville, Virginia, over 2 years ago, we always made it a point to visit Freya and eat out with her, and even stay with her sometimes at her house. She was mutually invited and attended many of our important life events, happy and sad. Before we departed for our final goodbyes to friends when moving to Virginia, she organized a wonderful get-together with food and music for us with most of our friends in Jana and John's spacious and beautiful backyard. We have always been grateful for that. Our older daughter, Julie, a longtime childhood friend of Jana's, came here with us this trip, traveling from the Lynchburg, Virginia area to also support Jana, Nick, and their families and pay tribute to Freya's memory. Nate and I will miss Freya very much.
Yes, thank you for everything, Freya. I'm going to sing this portion of the eulogy, and it's probably something you'll recognize as not being my composition. It happened to be written by Dvorak and his Symphony Number 9, or the New World Symphony rather. And it's called Going Home, which was the Largo section. And in Italian, that means soft and expansive. So it's a beautiful piece, and I've taken the liberty of changing the lyrics somewhat from the original lyrics so it can apply more to the Cohen family. Going home, going home, I am going home, quiet like some still day, I am going home. It It's not far, just close by, through an open door. Work all done, care laid by, never fear no more. Mom and Dad expecting me, Susan and Milton too. Lots of faces gathered there, all the friends I knew. I'm just going home. No more fear, no more pain, no more stumbling by the way, no more longing for the day, going to run no more. Morning star lights the way, restless dreams are gone, shadows gone, break of day. Real life has begun. There's no break, there's no end, just living on, wide awake with a smile, going on and on, going on and on. Going home, I am going home. Shadows gone, break of day, real life has begun. I'm just going home.
Thank you. And now call on Dave Byrne. Ben, my mistake.
Good morning. My name is Dave Ben. I am honored to be here, along with my wife Teresa and my family. I would like to offer my condolences to the Cohen family. We've been friends for over 50 years. My wife met Freya when they worked together at Eastern Airlines. They bonded immediately and became soulmates. Shortly after that, our families became entwined. We enjoyed dining, the theater, and travel with Milton and Freya, both my wife, Teresa, and I, and just loved to be in her company so much. It's hard to express the feelings in my heart, my family's heart. But the Cohens were always at any meaningful family event that took place in our lives. And we always enjoyed their company. My wife, Teresa, and Freya had a saying that they always shared together. That they said, "We may not have it together, we may not have it all together, but together we have it all. And that's so true. Freya was a lovely, caring person. She always expressed her love of family, and you could see the light in her eyes when she spoke of her family and their families. It was truly just something to see. Along with her fierce love of family and friends, were her love of cats. I'm sure all of you by now know that. I always asked her, I said, how many cats do you have? And I never got an answer, so I knew there were quite a few. She was worried about them in the cold, and anyway, she took good care of her cats. Freya was an adventurous person, both intellectually and her I could say her flair for her culinary delights, I think, is what caused them to open a Japanese restaurant that was said before, which they made into a good business for themselves, and they loved it. Shortly after their ownership of the restaurant, Milt was diagnosed with a serious illness, and it was during that time that we spent quite a bit of time with Milt and Freya. You could see the love and the caring and the devotion that she had for Milt. But that was Freya. Never once during that time did I hear her complain about how hard she had it and how difficult it was. It was just Milt, and Milt only. She truly loved him dearly. After his passing, Freya became deeply I could say embedded in the stock market, and I only wish that she was my broker. But Freya would never share her opinions about what to invest in, because while she didn't like losing money, she didn't want to lose other people's money, so she kept those secrets to herself, to my demise. It's just hard to express in words what she was and what she did. We met together some time ago, about a year ago, I guess. My daughter drove us to see Freya, to meet with Freya, I should say, at a small restaurant in Cranberry. Together we shared all the good times, which were many, and some of the bad times, thank God, which were few, together, and had a difficult time in saying goodbye. We stood there, walked around the town, even though Freya was hampered by walking with a cane, as well as I. But we had such a good time. And little did we know, when we finally said goodbye, that would be the last time I saw Freya. My wife and I saw Freya. It's just, it was a wonderful thing to have that meeting. But, during the last year of her life, with her own illnesses and sufferings that she was going through, a huge chocolate cake appeared on our doorstep on our anniversary. Shortly after that, a large bouquet of flowers showed up for my wife at her birthday, on her birthday. Freya was just Freya. She will be missed by all of us. My family will feel will feel that deep loss. It's hard to, once again, it's just hard to express those feelings, but she was such a unique, loving, and caring individual. She possessed a quality that was just of a genuine, gracious person, a person you love to be with, a person who loved life and always had a smile. Hard times and good times. We will all miss her. I know my family will miss her dearly. But we can be consoled by the fact that she's now out of the suffering and with her beloved partner of many years, Milt. They're together, and we can feel good about that. I came across a saying that I like to share with you. Many people come into our walk into our lives. Walk into and out of our lives, but few, precious few of those people, leave footprints on our hearts. And that was Freya. Thank you.
I now call on Cousin Debbie.
Hi. There are thousands of things about my time with Freya that I'm grateful for and will cherish. A lifetime of thoughtful birthday cards with love and money. Her love of New York City that became my love of New York City. Her love of lectures and learning, all the books that she read and shared, and the newspaper clippings she would send me about education or race relations, and her openness to deepening her learning about America alongside me. She loved America so much and believes so much in a brighter tomorrow. We also shared a love of afternoons at the Ritz or watching the Oscars with popcorn, just as she did with my mother. There were also all the times that she was there for me through life's difficulties, big and small. She was strong and she took good care of herself, and she taught me to do the same. She was my most vocal cheerleader on 1,000 phone calls, me walking the streets of New York or driving in the car, just hours and hours on the phone, and I know I'm not alone in that. I don't know how she had time to talk to all of us always. Her always showing me loving kindness and reminding me to show a loving kindness to myself. So this is what I will try to keep with me. This multi-generational strength, the fiery, well-spoken Silverman woman, smart and well-read and independent. Thank you.
This is your Kleenex. And now granddaughter, Maddie.
it's not going to be easy to say goodbye to my grandma because she wasn't just my grandmother, she was my best friend. And I think a lot of her family feels that way. And I could talk about anything with her, and I can't do that with anyone else. We talk about stupid things all the time, and she was such a silly lady. She was always making me laugh and making me tell her all about my friends and gossip, and we'd gossip about boys, and we would gossip about the Oscars and her favorite movies, and she would make me read the books she read at book club, and she would make me feel better about anything that I thought was dark. Somehow, even though we would joke around all the time, she would bring it around to a really serious topic because she was always thinking about everything around her. She was definitely the smartest person I knew. She was really passionate about politics and how they affected people, and I've never seen somebody feel the pain of other people the way she did. She was not a traditional person, and that was something that everyone, especially me, admired about her. She kind of refused to do what people expected her to do and did her own thing anyway, and that really inspired me to be myself, and it was hard to do that. My sister can't be here right now, but half of my conversations with her in the last 6 months have been about my grandma, and half of my conversations with my grandma in the last 6 months have been about her. They're both really close, and my sister talked a lot about being very inspired by grandma, especially about her unique artistic taste and her extreme resourcefulness. My grandma said she couldn't really respect somebody unless they were a great scavenger. And she really meant it. She really appreciated when people did resourceful and crafty things in hard times. And she was always pointing out her favorite character, Charlie, from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and how she would definitely be his buddy. My grandma will always be with me because we were never far apart, even though we were hours away from each other. And I don't think I could have a friend as close as her ever again. So it will be hard to say goodbye.
And our concluding speaker is Jana.
Well, I have to tell you that my mom and I always, we always talked about this dreadful day, and I never really thought it was going to be here, of course, but we had our time to actually make some plans and talk about this, and it was real. So I wanted to put some words together, and you'll hear some things through this that my brother and I had nothing to do with writing speeches. He did his own, and I did my own, and we don't even know what each other said. And you'll see that when you hear mine, there's a lot of similarities that he mentioned that I'm going to mention. So you could tell that the connection was pretty amazing. So, okay. So my existence all started on May 26, 1969 in Charleston, West Virginia. At the time, Mom was an art teacher at a nearby school and knew she needed someone who had a blood type that could match mine as soon as I was born. She knew she had a newborn with an RH problem, blood problem, that needed an immediate transfusion upon birth. She found a student in her class that was ready and waiting for me. I got a full blood transfusion through my heel. My point here is my mom was taking care of me before I even arrived. And I think that was the same time. Did you pull a chair over your head in the waiting room? Okay. So my brother was in the waiting room with my dad, and while I was getting a blood transfusion, he pulled a chair over his head and needed stitches on his head at the same time. So that was always a family situation. Typical for the rest of our life. Mom was my rock. She was always available, and this is the common theme for everybody. She was always available on the other side or the other end of the phone, any day, any time, any reason, anything. And that was so true at her final moments on 12/23. It was the same theme. My first memories were always of my parents loving me unconditionally. They always had my best interest at all times. Mom was generous, giving, and would always tell me how much she loved me and would jump in front of a train for me at any time. My teen years were filled with traveling the world on Eastern Airlines. By the time I was 18, I had been to Israel, Europe, Hong Kong, Japan, Mexico, Hawaii, along with various other amazing places. Mom thought that travel was the spice of life and that memories we made together, opening our eyes with different cultures, would shape my future positively. Oh my God, she was so right. My parents believed that travel was so important to see other cultures around the world. Everything wasn't in Cherry Hill. We would walk through Beijing and see like mud huts and people living on the street and all of that, and then come back to Cherry Hill East. So there was a lot of growing and learning in that childhood that was unbelievable. Well, I even remember walking the Great Wall of China with her, and also walking the Wailing Wall. We walked both walls. And going to the edge of the Kilauea volcanoes. She loved Hawaii. My mom probably went 25 times, at least in her life. Notice the tropical flowers. This is Hawaii. Same as my dad. We talked about cats 1,000 times tonight, but I still have to throw it in. Cats and new friends she met at the JCC. Oh, wait, let me just make sure this is the right. Yeah. Cats and new friends she met at the JCC were amazing for her in her later life. She had this unbelievable talent of just making great friends like in her 70s and 80s. I mean, who does that? I mean, it's so hard to keep your friends young that even in her 70s and 80s, she was making best friends everywhere. It was amazing. It just brought her so much pleasure. So she had other traumatic losses in her life where close friends and family and cousins really deserving mention. Specifically, her cousins Bob and Bev, Mo, Aunt Sally, her father Herman, of course her sister, her mother Gussie, Gloria, my dad's sister, Orhan, Lolita, and a newer friend named Jim from Rowan that she really liked, and her close friend Jean Alexander. All of these people, as Dave said, put a footprint on her heart. She worked at the local PetSmart for about 10 years as a volunteer, helping and supporting the caged cats up for adoption, and of course many of them became her own house cats. Her love for cats was incredible. My entire life, I always had a cat, and the first one was Kiki. He was there for my birth, and he died when I was 17 years old. I remember that event because my father was in China on a business trip, and he even cut his trip short to come back and mourn with us for the cat. Kiki was a family member, and I remember burying him in our backyard in Cherry Hill, wrapped in my baby blanket. As the years went by, after my father's passing, Nick and I tried very hard to include her in everything we possibly could. She took some great trips with us to Hawaii, Florida, St. Thomas, and other spots. She cherished these moments. She loved to just be included to go with us. It didn't even matter where we went. As the years went by, after my father's passing, Nick and I tried very hard to include her in everything. Oh, we already said that. My love for Mom and respect grew stronger as I got older and more mature. I knew we were not only mother and daughter, but we were really great friends. I was actually a girl pals with my mom. How cool was that? I looked at her differently, and it made my life that much richer. We spent so many weekends in New York City going to Broadway plays and then eating in Chinatown. She loved walking the streets with the stinky fish markets and the hot dogs with the sauerkraut and, of course, the ketchup. She had ketchup on everything. Oh, my God. Those handbags, the souvenirs all over the streets, those little hot cakes that were from the carts. Oh, we always got those. I love these events. And Nikki made mention to this. Even when my dad was healthy and we lived in Cherry Hill and Old Bridge, we would all four get in the car and go to New York City for the weekend. The best part, and this is where Nikki and I didn't coordinate any of this, the best part was on the way home, we would stop in North Jersey at 50 White Castles, and that's the same number that you used. And we didn't even coordinate this. And we would throw those little boxes all over the car. So, like, when we got home, those little White Castle sleeves were everywhere, and all those onions were all over the car. They loved it. That was, like, our favorite part of the day because we would just know that after Chinatown, it was dark outside. We were going to hit that after we got through the tunnel. I made a point of getting some over the past few years during my travels in North Jersey. I would, like, always go to White Castle and bring her some. One event that really always stuck out in my mind was, this is incredible. And I think this is that family connection if you want to get, I don't know, if there's a spirit that connects people, this is another instance. One event that really stuck out in my mind was we both went shopping for an event and needed a dress. She shopped in Virginia, and I shopped in New Jersey. And I guess at the time, like Hex and Strawbridge's and all these were probably owned by the same company, so they probably all had the same merchandise. We actually picked the same dress. I swear to God. So we showed up to the event, and I never ever forgot that. And it was the most unbelievable coincidence. She even mentioned that this month. I know there was a wardrobe change before the event. But we had the same dress, and we were like 300 miles away. So Mom was really a genius. Without formal financial training, she managed her stock portfolio all by herself. She made smart decisions on what to sell, what to buy every day. This allowed her to maintain a very nice lifestyle for herself for the rest of her life. She was so in tune with all corporation news. And her favorite stock of all was her beloved Intel. Oh, my God. Sharon could probably attest for this. You could never talk to my mom without hearing about Intel. And Disney, right? Okay. Mom always wanted to be sure that her cats would be taken care of if she wasn't here. Well, of course they will be. Nick and I, along with Kathleen, her beloved cat sitter for 25 years, are going to keep the cats going and their uninterrupted lifestyle for the next months, 6 months, whatever. It's so important that these cats keep their lifestyle. We have no intention of changing anything at the moment. Today we have been there daily to give them attention and love to her 4-legged kids. I promised her that I would. In her darkest moments, those cats were everything to her. Mom acknowledged and was lucid as ever about a point of no return. Nick and I were blessed to have told her that in person. She remained strong and proud of her children, even with the new, fresh, awful news. She gave Nick and I the gift of saying farewell to both of us. Once she gave us the opportunity to say goodbye and have no loose ends, she was satisfied. And we were also. We were also. And as the rabbi mentioned, there's something in the Bible or the Torah about that we had no idea. So she repeated a sacred act at one point. Mom's final gift to me was to tell me how much she loved me and that I did everything to support her and I should never, ever have any regrets. This was the hardest day of my life, but at the same time, the most blessed day of my life. I was given the chance to say goodbye and tell her how much I loved her and how much she meant to me. Words cannot express this moment in time. Mom passed peacefully at 1:45 a.m. on 12/23 with me, Nick, Debbie, and Julie at her bedside. She was comfortable, pain-free, and at total peace. I am sure of this. I was there. I saw everything to the very last second. I love you, Mom. I promise you, I will always remember you in the brightest parts of life and will always respect your final wishes until the day we meet again on the other side.
Our concluding prayer here in the chapel is called El Malei Rachamim, God the Compassionate One, who we turn to even in times of sorrow. I ask all who are comfortable to kindly stand. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bam Bromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina. Malor Kadoshim Toharim, Kazhar Rakia Mazirim, Ad Nishmata Hayashara, Shalchal Olama, Began Eden Tehei Menuchata, Ana, Ba'aharachamim, Hasti Reha Beseter Knapecha Laolamim, Usror Bisror Chaim et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachalata, V'tenuach Bishalom, Amishkava V'nomar. Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, the soul of Freya, who has gone to her eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that she performed in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is her portion. May she rest in the tranquility of shalom, of peace. And let us all say, Amen. Kindly be seated. The interment will take place at the Crescent Memorial Park on Route 130. Friends and family are welcome after that ceremony to the pub that is close by for a memorial luncheon. Also, on Friday at 5 p.m., there will be an informal gathering at Jana's home at 9 Thornwood Drive in Voorhees. Because it's Shabbat, it's not officially Shiva, but an opportunity for people to congregate. Oh, and last message as our staff is walking forward. The last mention of cats. Should anyone be so moved, contributions may be made in her memory to the Voorhees Animal Orphanage or the Animal Welfare Association, also of Voorhees. Adonai, mi וישכון בהר קדשך, הולך תמיד ופועל צדק, ודובר אמת בלבבו, לא רגל על לשונו, ועשה לרעהו רעה, וחרפה לא עשה, ועל קרובו. נבזה בעיניו נמאס, ואת ירא בני יכבד, נשבע להרב לא ימיר, כתוב לו לכאן בשמשך, ושולחן ענקי לו לכאן, עושה אלה ולמות יום. Once again, ladies and gentlemen,